Good morning, Sam here, Real Love Guitars. Just a quick one, sorry, pardon me, I might get steamed up because I've just come out to the shed and it's this much and this much, which is chilly. It's going to warm up because I put the fiery heatery thing on, but anyway, the reason I wanted to do this video quickly, get rid of the phone, the reason I wanted to do this quick video was in response to a question, a question that I was asked on YouTube yesterday. Oh, and by the way, since I'm going to upload this thing soon, because I want to keep it short, for me, glue stuck here, I'm going to keep it short for me, so since I'm going to upload it very soon, I'd like to wish you a Happy New Year. And for those kind people who've inquired after my well-being, who haven't seen any videos, or hardly any videos in the last while, come on, clean up. That's it, I can't do it. I should redo this. Time is of the essence, hang on. No, that's done, right. Yeah, so some concerned citizens have asked me if I'm alright because they haven't seen any videos and stuff. So yes, I'm absolutely fine. Happy New Year, happy 2017, welcome to a brand new year. You're probably covered in snow at the moment, but I'm going to do a little bit of... Oh, okay, that's my door blowing open. With the intention of freezing me, I'm just going to put you down on here for a minute. I'm sort of point you over there, and I'm just going to go and shut the door before I die. Yikes! Thank you, door. I'm not going to shut it, I'm going to lock it. Right, where was I? Oh yeah. So somebody asked me on video, anyway, Happy New Year and all that. Somebody asked me on video, why was a guitar, by the way I'm wearing this because I'm cold, why was a guitar choking out when they bent the strings? I haven't got any strings out here, but they were saying that a B string, when they were bending it across into the space of the, let's say the G, it was choking out. So, and they were saying that the G string on its own, when they play it there, the G string at that position plays fine. So why doesn't the B string, when it's bent into the same place, why doesn't the B string play fine? And I had to think about it for a while, but I've always thought about it, I've often thought about this. And I wanted to try and explain it as best I could, as best as I understand it, as well as I understand it. And it's just it's a non-scientific opinion, so feel free to have your own view on it. But I suppose the thing that struck me was, let's start with a thing. Okay, so when you have your nut and your bridge, let's say, and then you've got your frets in between. I'm going to make this very as simple as possible. Okay, so let's say that's your sits. Anyway, so the point being is, when you have a G, it's designed to go from there to there, right? And what we're talking about, we're talking about a B or an E string. Let's take the E to make it extreme, okay? So what somebody's saying is, when I bend an E to here, okay, across the radius of the neck, the G string, for some reason they're saying this G string, let's say that's the fret we're talking about here, right? So the person's saying, actually it's Furious Phil was asking, I remember his name. Furious Phil was saying, look, the G string plays fine there, so something about the clearances here, here, here and here, when you're playing a G, is absolutely fine. But why is it when you bend the E across, theoretically to touch the same place, okay, you're bending the G out the way as well, it doesn't matter, but when you bend the E across to there, it doesn't play. And that's what's happening in one dimension when you're looking down on it from the top. So it's worth kind of keeping that in mind. But then let's look at it from another angle. and this is, yikes, thanks phone. Let's look at it from another angle. I'm going to try and, I don't know how this is going to work out, but let's say here's our nut, okay, and right the way down here is here's our bridge in the distance, okay, and we're going to put some frets in, like a bar of fries, Turkish delight. No, was it mint chocolate cream or something in the 70s? Anyway, so what we're talking about is we've got a G that normally runs, let's say, down here from nut, there's the slot, let's say nut to bridge, and then what we're doing is we're taking this E string and we're bending it over the thing up to there, and it's going off like that, okay? So maybe you're starting to see what's going on here, all right? The important bit about this is, let's look at the level in terms of height, right? It's a bit crude, but let's say, look at where our E string originates in vertical height, and let's look at where our G string originates in vertical height. Okay, can you see that the difference in height? All right. So the point being here is that looking longitudinally down the thing, when we let's say we fret the G at that place there, what's happening is that, and then back up to there. Okay, and we know if we were to, this is really need a computer for this, but if we were going to draw the angle between the G string touching the fret and the place it touches the bridge, you've got an angle that increases, no, the angle doesn't increase, sorry, the distance, the height increases. So on the next fret it's only a tiny bit, on the fret after it's more, on the fret after it's more, and that's the way it creates the clearance between the string being pushed down on that fret and it rising up to the bridge. Now that triangle there, if we took it out to the side here, I didn't intend to do this, but let's say that's the triangle, okay, and we're saying, look, here's the first fret in the line, here's the next fret in the line, here's the next fret, and what we're showing is that the clearance of the string touching the fret here on that G track is that much, so it clears the next fret without choking, and it clears the next fret without choking by miles, and there's its place on the top of the bridge, right? And that's that little triangle pushed out to the side. Now, if you think about it, look at the vertical height. What's happening when we replace the G string, which is this one here, with the E string? All that we're doing, let's use the purple one. All we're doing is we're taking the height down further. See that vertical height there, that difference? So the top of this triangle goes down to there. And so we've got a tiny triangle, and that's what's happening. So you are creating a triangle, but it's lower because of the height of the string is lower in relation to the radius of the neck, and that's taking away the microscopic clearance that exists when it works fine for the G. Okay, so Furious Phil, that's the visual articulation of what I was saying in words on YouTube last night, so I hope that makes some sense. But what's interesting, the last bit I'm supposed to say about this, is that if you take a 16-inch radius, that's probably not true, but let's say that's a 16-inch radius, right, nice and flat, right, the difference between these two is tiny, okay, so the amount, when you bend, the amount that the angle reduces by as you bend this string up to that one is minuscule, and there's still enough room. So if you want to be able to make massive bends on the guitar, you ideally want a flat radius. If your radius is really tight by comparison, like a vintage 7.5 inch radius, okay, like an old vintage Strat, this might be something like an Ibanez. That's sort of what they call a shredder's guitar, but if you have an old vintage Strat with a very round, tight radius, the the difference between your E height on the nut and the and let's say the G, right? The difference between those two is quite substantial, okay? And it doesn't have to be much, it just has to be enough to reduce and remove the tiny clearance that you already have, because we know that the clearance is involved here when a string, and you only have to look at it. When you look at the string coming away from the fret towards the bridge, the clearances between the string and the next coming, the subsequent fret, are tiny amounts. Hence the whole thing about the precision fret leveling being so important, because if you're let's say you're working with a minuscule amount anyway, even when the radius, or even when you're dealing with the right string in the right slot, you're not even bending, and you're dealing with a flat radius, the gaps are still very small. So fret leveling helps you to make sure that the gap is enough. And the minute you tighten it off like this, you not only make fret leveling even more important anyway, but you also make it absolutely vital if you're going to get as much of the bend as possible. Now there is a limit. I found with some 7.5 vintage necks, you honestly just can't get more than a tone bend out of them. Maybe you could if you had all the room in the world to fret level to the absolute precision, because in a way, well, I guess what I'm saying is to get a tone and a half or two-step bend out of 7.5, you actually have to have leveled this in playing position way beyond the point at which you need to level it just to make each string in its own slot play without any choking. So where I often say that you only need to level the frets as much as is required to make the notes play. The truth is I need to level it as much as is required to make the notes and bends play. And the tighter the radius is, the more precise, closer to 100% level that has to be in the playing configuration, which is very, very difficult to achieve anyway, because of just the vagaries of temperature, bending in the truss rod, and so on and so on. So I hope that's gone some way to explain why bends choke out. And all I can tell you is because of the differential in vertical height between the start points. So the point, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that this point here is lower compared to, relatively speaking, this point here on the fret further up. So if you just take it as one single cross section, you are looking at the string originating here, then you're trying to bend it upwards on the hill to there into the G spot, excuse the expression, and then back down. It goes back down at the other end to here. So you bend it up to there, and it goes back down to there on the bridge at the far end. And it's that raising it up the hill that removes the clearance that it would otherwise have. Okay, there you go. Anyway, keep that one quick. Hope that was useful. See you again.